Welcome back to another episode of Forbidden Depths. I'm your host, Queen Frostbitten, and we're here today to get down, dirty, and sultry by staying open, educated, consensual, and safe. If you're returning, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for supporting the channel and its growth. If, of course, you're new here, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe, because one taste will never be enough. Welcome back to another episode of Forbidden Depths. Today I'm joined by this really amazing individual. I'm going to let him go ahead and introduce himself to you.
Thank you very much, Queen. My name is Jon, also known as Hitherecatsuit. I am the host of the podcast What Women and Other Wonderful Humans Want, presented by Dating Kinky. I've been in the fetish all my life since I was about 3 years old, and we'll get into that. But I've been out in the public eye for probably about the last 10 years. And in the last 3 years, I've been doing the podcast and been making appearances and doing some educational appearances as well, teaching classes on what I call the kindness track. My most well-known class is called Kindness and Other Kinks. Mm-hmm. And you can find me on all the socials as Hitherecatsuit, whether it's FetLife, Instagram, or Twitter. And there you go.
Yes. So awesome. And if you do not follow on Twitter, you're going to want to, because not only do you get kind of an update with information about him, but you get to hear about all these amazing other people too. And I love to hear other people's stories. I'm going to tell you, that is one of my favorite things, to kind of get background on people. And I remember whenever I first started following you, that's what I was looking at. I was like, well, what does this individual do? And I got to see like all these amazing things. I'm going to tell you, the one reason I started following you was because you had interviewed a really amazing person that I'd been following for a long time. Let me see if I can find her interview. I have your page pulled up right now because that's who I am. So it looks like on February 14th, you had posted something about talking about the Amazon goddess.
The Amazonia, yes.
Listen,
that was a big get for me.
I was so excited when I seen it, because initially, whenever I started, before I follow anybody, I do my research. I look through their feed. I see what they're about, because I'm all about positivity and education and just amazing people. And I've been following her for years. I fucking love her. So I don't know how you got suggested to me, but I'm going to assume it was because one of her and other people that you follow and that follow you. So you actually showed up in my suggested, which Twitter has been on point with that recently. Have you got any good suggestions lately?
I'm sure I have, but honestly, it's as much as I can do to just keep up with the people that I have, because I've interviewed about 200 people on the podcast. We're on episode number 151, and sometimes I'll be doing additional interviews for like education and meeting people. So the amount of people that I follow is rather extensive, but every now and then things get lost in my feed, and I hate when that happens.
Yeah. And it's like some people don't get as much in your feed as other people too. It's like they kind of, Twitter, the algorithm limits what you see of theirs. And that's so annoying to me, because it's so hard for you to remember to go back to that individual's page and look through it, because you want to show support. You know, that's how I am. I want to be supportive and be like, hey, I still see you. I'm here supporting you. But you literally, if it doesn't show you all of that content, you literally have to go and manually find them. And I'm like, man, I just want it all to be in my feed. But
a lot of times it has to do with, for me, doing research. And the funny thing is, and people know this if they listen to the podcast, I don't do a lot of research. I will get a biography from somebody. I'll look at their websites, look at their Twitter feed or Instagram.
Right.
But the questions that I ask all come off the top of my head, and they're all based on the previous answer that somebody gave me, because I want it to be a conversation. I don't
Right.
want it to be an interview,
Yeah.
because if you listen to a conversation and you feel like you're just there in the room with them, it becomes so much a better story. And
Hmm.
that's what we discovered, is you let people talk and they tell great stories.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And like, I love that. I love that you do that. I feel like everybody kind of has their own approach. And I've seen some people that only, like, they don't ever ask any questions or find any kind of nitty gritty out. They kind of only do like this little chit chat kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I like the chit chat, but I want the juicy stuff too. I want those juicy questions to be asked. So I
And
need that.
here's the funny part about that. I ask juicy questions if it's talking about who they are and
Hmm.
how they have become the person that they become. But
Yes.
you don't listen to my show to hear about sex.
Yeah.
You don't listen to my show to hear all the racy stuff. You listen to
Hmm.
my show to really get to know the people who I'm interviewing. And
Yes.
I think that's the reason why I've been able to get the guests that I do, is they
Hmm.
know it's not a podcast being done with a man holding a microphone in one hand and having his other hand down there. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work like that. And I know that there are
Yeah.
podcasts that are like that.
Hmm.
And
Those are the
I
ones I
know
shy away from, just letting you guys know.
I don't blame you at all. But the stories, I mean, we can go back on particular stories, but the stories that I get from people when they've been through so much. I go back to the Hutsy Brook episode, that where Hutsy Brook here is a well-known dominatrix,
Hmm.
has sang at Disneyland during the day, doming at night, became viral with the Try Guys. She was the dominatrix for the Try Guys and had a whole special done about her.
Hmm.
And then she lost everything
Yeah.
during COVID. And
Yeah.
to hear her story as she's come back, and that only takes you to just the comeback part since
Hmm.
then. And we have to have Hutsy back on because I absolutely love Hutsy.
Right.
But when Brooke comes back on, Brooke will tell you about the fact that she is singing once again in Las Vegas and is
Hmm.
making a life for herself back the way that she used to. But it doesn't have to involve kink. That will
Right.
always be a part of her,
Right.
but she was able to find her way back to her authentic self.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. The journey. That's what
Hmm.
I'm fucking here for. I want to hear about that journey. That's like the majority of my interviews whenever I'm talking to people. Yeah, I have it set up like an interview, but at the same time, I don't treat it solely as an interview. Like, I want to get into the conversation. I want to let it evolve, turn into whatever it's going to turn into. That's why some interviews I only get like 3 questions out. Some interviews I get like 10. It's all about, the conversation overall. And I love how people kind of start with something rocky and turn it into something amazing.
Hmm.
Like maybe somebody had some kind of trauma in their past, or maybe someone had like a COVID situation where they lost everything. And then they took on the world, they reeled that shit in, they found some kind of motivation, and they came out on top. I love the underdog story. I
Hmm.
love people being successful. So that was one of my inspirations for the podcast. I want people to know that there's a good side to sex work,
Hmm.
you
Very
know?
much so. And I have a question for you. Where
Okay.
did your journey start?
Oh man. Okay, so mine officially started on record as a pro dom 10 years ago. I started out helping someone. So I had several friends that were talking to me about how their family had cast them out because of kinks that they were interested in.
Mm.
And it was just beyond me. I could not figure out why anyone would say, "You're not part of my family anymore. I don't love you anymore because of the things you're interested in." And one of these people was a friend of mine and he liked feet. And I'm
Mm.
like, that is the most terrible thing that I have ever heard. Somebody completely disowning their child, being like, "You're not a part of this family anymore because of something you do behind closed doors on your own time."
Hmm.
To me, I couldn't fathom that. So I was like, I'm going to start this self-help channel on YouTube. I want to let people know it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be kinky. It's okay to be different, whatever that means to you. And learn to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to learn to love yourself, because at the end of the day, you are the person that has to go through all this shit. They're not doing it for you. You have to do it all on your own. And I was like, I'm going to come out and let people know that it's okay, because I did dom work before that, but I wasn't in the public eye. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let people know it's okay to be your authentic self. So when I started my brand in the public eye, that's what I said. I will never sell out. I was always stand true and stay true to who I am, and let people know that it's okay to do that. And you can be successful. It may not all be at one time. You're going to have to build on it, but it will happen as long as you want it to happen.
And that's the thing that I am always amazed when I talk to pro doms, is when you hear the story about why they got into it. Yeah. Now, sometimes it might be, well, I've always been bossy, but other times it was, I wanted to help people. Or they may have gotten into it because they thought it would be a money-making opportunity, but then discovered it's life-changing to people. Yeah. Which is why one of the questions I always ask is, when is the first time you received a note or a message back from somebody that you scened with that said, you changed my life? See, I've always been kind of connected with that. Starting out as a kid, I grew up in a very rural area. It was completely driven by the patriarchy. Like, women weren't allowed to do anything. You were like shunned for spending time with men and all this stuff. Like, it was a bad environment. I'm going to tell you, for a long time, I had a negative view of men because of the traditional men in my area. I'm from Kentucky. Like, women basically literally had no fucking rights. Like, they told you you did, but you didn't. Right. So it was really hard for me growing up, because I was always this super independent, like super motivated, driven individual. And if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it times 2, and then look you in the eye and let you know I did that. Yeah. So that's who I have always been. I can remember being 5 and 6 years old, and I would be playing house with people, whether it like be my friends or whatever. And I was always the boyfriend. I was always the husband. I was always daddy. And it sounds kind of weird to some people hearing that, but it's not like necessarily we choose who we are. Yeah, we can choose our brand, kind of how we want to evolve that. But at the core of a true dom, you're going to find that there were always some kind of telltale signs leading up to who they became. Like, for me, I was always the leader in every situation. People always looked to me for answers. And I've always been a therapist. I was literally giving people advice as a therapist whenever I was. The first real time I remember it was 8 years old. And it was family members that I'd give advice to first. Obviously, they're the closest to you. And I can remember talking my first person out of suicide around that time. So at a very young age, I realized, hey, I want to help people, and this is part of that. So there were so many things. And then my childhood trauma, I had so many kinds of trauma. Some people were scared to talk about it, but I always talk about that shit. Because without that, I wouldn't be who I am. So I'm all cool with it. Like, that was part of the reason I developed into the person I am, and why I could help other people that were in similar situations, you know? In my case, I was always the person that would come to people's rescue. I was, oh, Jon will take care of it. Oh, Jon will be here for that. Oh yeah, I can count on him. And I was always the guy you could count on to be there for you. Yeah. I was always the support staff. I was always the leader, somebody who would go above and beyond. And I actually got an award in high school for service to the school unselfishly rendered. And they gave out 6 of these awards, and I was number 5. And when they announced my name, suddenly the entire gym stood up as one. And I looked around and I went, how did this happen? Yeah. And throughout my life, I've always been the person that people count on.
Mm-hmm.
Leave me out on my own and Jon will take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in just talking to you just now, it helps me realize why I have always identified as damsel when it comes to scenes.
Yeah.
I want to be rescued.
Yes.
I want to feel like I am the one that is at peril or at risk because I want
Mhm.
somebody to come help me. And the
Yes.
fact is, the more you tie me up, the more you put me in subspace, the more you do impact on me, it gets me to that place where I realize the rescue is within myself.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This has already been such an enlightening conversation. I fucking love it.
Oh, I'm happy for that. I mean, people. I once had an employee when I worked at my alma mater of all places, who came into my office and was really angry. She goes, "I've never met anybody like you." And I
Mhm.
said, "And you never will, and you won't
Right.
realize how important it is until I'm gone." And
Yes.
sure enough, when I was gone, she wrote me a note. You know, you were right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there will be little things I'll tell you along the way that will stick with you, and then you'll realize it one day and it's be like, oh
Yep.
my Lord. And
Damn straight.
I used to have an ego. I used to care if I won Emmy Awards. I used to care if
Mm-hmm.
people were watching me on TV. I did.
He's very successful, okay? If
Well,
you guys
thanks.
don't know.
But the fact is, when I entered my 50s and when I became single again,
Mhm.
my ego went away because I wasn't having to prove anything
Yeah.
to my spouse.
Right.
And that's who I
Right.
was trying to prove everything to. Now it's, and this will go to the therapy part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm having to learn to accept love again.
Mm-hmm.
I push it away. It's not that I push it away, but I can't believe it's true. Like
Yes.
I just had a date with a wonderful person who's in our community. And I'm going, did that actually happen? Is
Yeah.
somebody liking me for me? And then I get all excited going, well, maybe it can be. And then I remember all the times that it hasn't worked and I
Mm-hmm.
bring
It's
myself back
discouraging.
down. But gosh, my heart goes pitter patter when I think about what could be.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, Jon, you deserve it. You deserve love. You deserve
Yeah.
everything that comes to you because you've always been there for everybody else.
Yes.
And I have to, oh, I should have brought it over here. But I have to keep a notebook
Mm-hmm.
to remind me of that.
Yeah.
And that notebook came from a kink scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you the story now. So when I first started publicly playing, I would give little notebooks to the tops because they could keep notes about the scene and, you know, what we could do next
Mm-hmm.
time. And how cool was that?
Yeah.
And then as time went on, I'm going to go to Winter Wickedness, which is one of the conventions we had here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself giving notebooks to people just as a way of saying thank you or
Right.
connecting with me. And then I'm part of a scene at Winter Wickedness with a friend of mine who had gained 80 pounds, had had an awful breakup, hadn't been to a kink party because she didn't believe that she belonged there.
Right.
You could write out a list.
Right.
And so there was a woman who played the role of the top and was giving her impact. The bottom was tied with her hands out to the side and blindfolded. And so the top started warming up and then started hitting really hard impact. And after the first really hard impact, I walked up to the bottom and I said, your beauty comes from inside you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stepped back. And then there was more impact. And then another one of her friends came up and said, this is exactly where you deserve to be.
Yeah.
And then the scene continued like this. And at the end of the scene, her arms were still to the side. They took her blindfold off.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gathered all her friends that were there at the convention, and we were standing in front of her. And they let her arms down, and I am standing there. Unfortunately, the only one I have has a little mark through it because I've written in it. And I'm standing there holding a notebook like this.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes it and she opens it up and she sees everything we had said to her written in the notebook. I said, that, my dear Chloe, is for when you're having awful days and you go back and you read what people really think about you.
Yeah.
So now
100%.
these have become my trademark. I've given out over 250 of them to play partners. I've given them out professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea is to write your small victories, compliments, things that you think about yourself, something that somebody says about you, and you write it down. And when you're having that crappy day, you go back and read it.
Yeah.
And you realize the difference you made in somebody's life. And I've had people cry when they get my notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people who know about the notebooks that when they get them are like, oh my God, finally. And they are what define me. It is my way of taking all the negativity that happened in my life, realizing that you need to hear that positivity and you need to keep it dear. And people at work call me the Ted Lasso of work. That's what I am, basically. If you've never watched Ted Lasso, please do. It's the best show ever made on television. It is.
I'll have a watch. I'll have a watch. I'll write it down so I remember too.
Yeah, it's on Apple TV. Season 3 is starting in March. But it's all about kindness. You think it's about a soccer coach. No, it's about kindness.
Which I want to tell you is scarce for many reasons. I think one of the biggest reasons that it is so scarce is because people think it's weakness. And let me tell you, there is nothing weak about kindness.
It is one of the most beautiful things you can share with people. And that's why I teach about it. I have a class called Kindness and Other Kinks, and I teach about the role of kindness in kink. For example, one of the nicest things you can do as a top is respond to one of those bottom-seeking tops threads on FetLife or a board that might be put up at a play party. And the reason I say that is that you are willing to give of yourself to someone who is seeking an opportunity. Right. Now, I'm not talking about the ones going, I want you to do me and stick it in my ass and do all that sort of stuff. No, right. Those people are looking for a fetish dispenser. Yeah. But if you're looking for a true connection, one of the kindest things you can do is respond to one of those or to post in there and show that you're willing to make a connection with a person who approaches you the right way. Right. Yes. And let me tell you, it is hard for people to know what to say when approaching, because the majority of people out there are the ones looking for a quick wank that just want it for free, and they're not really concerned about the person. Like, they could care less where the content was coming from as long as it's the content they want. Like, they don't give a fuck about. To me, most people that try to interact with me on a professional level don't want to pay professional prices, but they want that professional content, which is super insulting for me because I spent many years perfecting my craft. So when someone comes to me and they're like, oh, I want to take 5 minutes to, you know, pull on my dick or whatever, I'm like, well, I don't want to be there for it unless I'm getting paid. Why would I want to be there? You're looking at me like I'm an object. So I want paid to look like that object. Because that's expensive time that I don't get anything out of it. Like, what do I get out of watching random people pull on their dick? Like, that doesn't do anything for me. Now, in a lifestyle situation, where you're going to play parties and things like that.
That's a whole different thing.
Right. But
Yeah.
if you approach somebody going, I love people beating my ass, and I want to be told that I'm little, and I want you to do sensation stuff with me and really make it feel rough on me,
Right.
as opposed to do it this way. It would be my honor to be able to negotiate a scene with you.
Yes.
I happen to enjoy sensation, impact, and the feeling of being bound. But what I can bring to you is a connection and a genuine offering of that connection, giving you whatever service that might make you happy. I want to give you the opportunity to try things that you haven't tried before, and give you the opportunity to just enjoy a safe space to have a scene. If that intrigues you, I would love to talk to you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And I love the part where you're asking or advising, hey, if there's something that you haven't done and you kind of want to explore, I'm willing to do that. Like, that is one of the best ways to approach a dom, because sometimes even somebody that's been, a pro dom for many, many years, there's always going to be something that we haven't experienced that we're curious about, but not everybody likes that, So to have that opportunity is fucking huge. My only thing is, especially in Kentucky, it's super rural, and the majority of people that contact me from Kentucky don't want to pay for my services. They just want to meet up and they don't want anything public about it. Like, I'm like, okay, well, you don't have the money to pay me. Are you up for being a film sub so I get something out of it? And they're like, no, I'm not really into that. I don't want anybody to know. And I'm like, what kind of incentive do I have to show up and do this then? I don't know you. You're not paying me. You haven't shown that you appreciate my time because you didn't approach me right. And you're not wanting to be filmed either. Like, where in that says that I benefit any? It looks like you benefit completely, like, make me feel like I get something out of it. Make me feel like I'm accomplished, because even if, you can't pay, maybe you don't have the money, maybe you got kids, maybe you got all this other stuff on the side, maybe you don't have a good paying job, because Kentucky, I'm going to tell you, it's not a good place. When it comes to making money, it's not a good place. So, I mean, I completely understand that, but come to me and tell me you appreciate my content. Come to me and tell me you appreciate my brand. Don't be like, this is what I like. Can you do that for me? No. If you want my attention, you like message me and like, I love your persona. I love your energy. I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get a positive reaction out of me if you say something like that, as opposed to, oh, well, I think you're hot and I want to jerk my dick to you. Like, cool, do that without talking to me about it.
Well, when you followed me, you may notice some of the replies that I give to DOMs that are not the typical type of replies. Now, if they're doing it in a way where they want you to like text them on Sex Panther or buy their content, I'm not going to go in there and interrupt that sexy feeling.
Right. Yeah.
But if they post having breakfast in Barcelona and it's a beautiful day, and my response to them is, and it's Barcelona is more beautiful with you in it.
Yes. Yes. And it's something that small. Look at us like
I want to
humans.
serve you, not I want to lay at your feet, not I want to kneel to you. It is, I appreciate the person that you are.
Yes.
How easy is that?
Yes. Oh my goodness. And you would think by the amount of people that interact that is super hard. Because I'm going to tell you 10 to 1, I have more people approaching me that do it the wrong way than they do the right. I have literally, and I'll tell you, all the people that approach me right, I remember those people. I remember them because they made a positive impression. And more than likely, if they show support at some point, I'm going to do something for them. I'm going to be like, this person has been retweeting my stuff. This person has been liking my stuff. for a long time. They've consistently been there to show that they just appreciate me as a human. I'm just going to send them a custom photo. That's just my thank you. You know what I mean? And I can honestly tell you that there's not a lot of people. And that's why I appreciate those people that do, the good ones. It's why I appreciate them more. And it's why I spend more time on those people. And if you're one of those people that's like, well, I don't have the money for that, there are free sites out there that many of us have. You can go to the free sites. We get ad revenue. It's not a lot of money, but it's still supporting. We appreciate that too. You know?
One of the things that I have, and pardon my interruption, Quinn.
Oh, no, go ahead.
But one of the things that I have found so amazing is that there have been people, and I will call them out by name, Amanda Wildfire, who is a legendary dom, did the original Gwen Media videos. I mean, the first women-produced BDSM videos that didn't show just hot women. It showed what women appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah.
And Amanda has retired as a pro dom and has a protege, Queen P, who's an amazing ball of energy. And I got a note saying, I do something nice for one person every year on Valentine's Day, and I've decided to do it for you. I went, okay. Said, when you come up to Minnesota, I know you've always wanted to be fitted into a latex catsuit, so I want to do that for you and shoot some content, because we need some content for my protege. And I said, well, I'd absolutely love to do that. So I expected to go up there and get in a latex catsuit and take some pictures. What happened was a 3-hour scene.
Oh, nice.
Where not only was it me in this catsuit, but I had metal stocks. They said, you want to try the metal stocks? Sure. And then suddenly I'm in them and I'm not getting out. And then they made me into a doll. It was a latex catsuit that had an inflatable outside with a little pussy and boobs and a hood, and they made me into a doll, which was a lot of fun. And then they placed me in a latex and leather sleep sack and strapped me in there, and I was like, I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
And they said they did it for one reason and one reason only, because of what I'm doing for the community.
Yes.
And they said, anytime you come up, we will have some fun. So the next time I went up, I got to try a latex sarcophagus, of which there aren't many in the entire world, but this thing is as big as a king tut sarcophagus, except you get in it and there's air, there's pressurized air things all over you, and it literally blows up and puts you inside of it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, I'm in heaven. So I am in awe of people who have seen the work that I do and see that it is of value to them.
Yes.
To the point where somebody has invited me for my birthday.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no way I could possibly pay you for what you are allowing me to do.
Right.
I said, I don't know if this has value or that has value or whatever. And they said, first of all, being who you are has value.
Yes.
Second of all, you do things that I can't do. And if you do them for me, we're going to be great.
Yeah.
And we're talking creative services that I'm in the business.
And you're safe. You're an asset. You help the community overall, and you're safe. Like, that's a dime a dozen. Like, you're not going to find that. And you're one of those individuals that you're not only positive, but you're open and honest. Like, that's rare itself.
And I wish more people would be like that. And you notice I didn't say guys, although
People
it has to do a lot with men.
Yep.
When you were talking about men saying that they want to wank themselves off while you look at them or whatever. I have often said that, and it's something that has to do with improv, which I was a part of. And I say this too many times on my podcast, and people are probably like, okay, we've heard it enough. But it is interesting in the way men and women think. Men, when they get a suggestion in improv, go straight to the solution. That's how they tell the story. Tunnel vision. They get the suggestion, boom, 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 straight to the solution.
Right.
Women will get that same suggestion. They'll see the end of the story, but they take a 360-degree view before even starting.
Yeah.
And it's about the journey to get to either that spot or a different spot that makes a whole lot more sense because it's logical. So think about men in sex and women in sex. Men get idea, want to get off.
Yep.
Women get idea and have to set this beautiful scenario because it takes this journey to get them to that place. And you don't know where that journey is going to come from.
Right.
Whether it's the vibration of a vibrator or the proper touch of someone. Or as I discovered last week, when I got to have a scene with a good friend of mine who I would never consider being sexual with, but were very sensual, and it came from doing aftercare.
Right.
She was doing aftercare with me and she was sliding on my catsuit. She was going, I can't, why are you so slippery?
Yeah.
I said, well, that's part of the joys of wearing catsuits. And I said, and if you ever have two people wearing catsuits, oh my.
Yeah.
And she said, I need to experience this. So she went and bought a catsuit, and we met last week and we said, we're going to have a scene. So we got an open area with pads on it. It happened to be in a swingers club. So they had, I call them orgy areas where you have big places. And it's just a pad with plastic on top of it. And I said, I know you're a wonderful top. I know you're a wonderful bottom. I am just usually a bottom, but I think for this, we just figure out what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
And we started snuggling and sliding. And then when she was down by my knees and I literally pulled her up and she slid all over my body up to me, she went, oh. And then when she slid on my knee with one knee to, or slid on my leg with one leg to both sides and slip, I went, oh. And what she didn't realize is that that friction and that feeling that we had by being unencumbered by having skin to skin, which doesn't always slide or doesn't always provide, it was this, I call it oil wrestling without the mess.
Yeah.
It is this beautiful feeling. And suddenly she was getting turned on.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she was getting more turned on. And you have to realize I'm not a very sexual person. But 3 orgasms later, I could tell that she was enjoying it.
Right.
And it's because what I was doing with the catsuit and the way that I was sliding and she was sliding. Now, there's a perfect example of my dream is to play with somebody in a catsuit and enjoy that. But what I could give to you is a new experience that may allow you to enjoy being with somebody in a totally different way.
Right.
And now she's like, when's the next time we can do it?
Yeah.
So if you've never played with somebody else in a catsuit, and it can be a man and a woman, or it can be 2 women, it can be 2 guys too. They, I mean, in the gay community, catsuits are actually pretty hot.
Yeah.
But it is a feeling like you've never had. And if I didn't open up the opportunity for that, neither one of us would have had this dreamlike type thing.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's one of those
let me add
things.
one more line to it. And at the end, people are asking me, "Well, Jon, did you come? Did you have an orgasm?" And I went, "No." And they said, "Didn't you want one?" I said, "It would have been nice, but the joy seeing her and
Yeah.
being able to bring her, that's all the joy I needed." And people are like, "Damn, you are different."
And I guess people don't realize that that feeds to subspace too.
Mhm.
Subspace isn't always about, you over here ejaculating. A true sub that loves subspace, they're going to get fulfillment out of just that. Like the whole service or seeing the pleasure of someone else or feeling useful, and that all goes back to your love languages too. By the way, what is your love language?
I am touch and interviewing.
Okay.
Nookie Note said it's interviewing, but no, touch is my absolute love language, to the point that
Mhm.
during COVID, I went to see the doctor, and the nurse went to take my arm and do blood pressure, and I started sobbing. And she goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "I just realized that's the first time I've had human touch in over 3 months, and I just
Oh,
lost it."
oh,
And touch is a lot what this catsuit does for me.
mm-hmm.
I don't wear them to get off anymore. That's what I
Right,
originally wore them for.
right.
I wear them for the safeness and the tightness and the hug that I feel. So I'll come home after a
Yes.
hard day and pull on a pair of tights because they're tight, then
Mm-hmm.
pull on a cat suit over top of it, and finally feel like I'm in a safe place after being stressed out all day.
Yeah. And the physical aspect of it helps you mentally. Like it doesn't always have to be like one or the other. They can work together. So you get physical fulfillment and then you get the mental fulfillment too.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people do that whenever they're entering subspace. They need that decompression. Like you were talking about earlier, how you've always been the one everybody looks to and counts on. So
Mhm.
it's nice to be able to let go and let somebody else take on the responsibilities, you know?
And the story of my first scene, my first public scene, which happened at the sanctuary in Dallas, Texas, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to negotiate, didn't know what to ask for, other than
Mhm.
I love being in my catsuit and I love being tied down and
Right,
I like being gagged.
right.
And since it was our first time playing together, she didn't gag me, but she put me on a bondage table with my arms up above me, my ankles down below me, and she did some CBT with clothespins.
Mhm.
Now, it didn't matter if she did that or not, because that's not something I'm necessarily into, but I said, "Okay, this is what this is about. I'm going to give it a try."
Right.
At the end of the scene, 45 minutes, I sit up and I start sobbing.
Mhm.
She goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "For the first time in more than a dozen years, I realized I wasn't thinking about what I had to do. I wasn't thinking about what I have done.
Mhm.
I was in the moment. That doesn't happen to me
Yeah.
because I was in a very high stress job and a high stress marriage, and
Mhm.
just it was all this big brain tornado.
Right.
And it finally calmed down enough to the point where I could just be."
Yeah.
So when people ask me what I get out of kink, that's what I'm addicted to. I don't care if I get off
Mhm.
or not.
Yeah.
I want those moments.
Yeah.
Give me that moment and I am joyous.
Right. Yes. And I mean, the majority of people that I've had sessions with, I'm going to say that there have been a few that were just there to be in the moment to like get off or whatever, but the majority of people, they're there for some kind of therapy.
Mhm.
It's literally something that they need to use to either get over some kind of trauma that they've experienced, or just like you with work, A lot of my clients are either government employees, CEOs, somebody that has a lot of responsibility, and they're fucking tired. They're owners of these businesses, you know, and it's just like they want for once to walk in and be like, I don't want to think about anything. Just let me exist, and you do things to me that make me feel like a human that has no responsibilities. And I'm like, we can do that. But that's what it's about for them. Like, not everybody is there to, you know, to get off. Some people, that is the way they get off. They're like, I need that freedom. I need to breathe. And then I'm going to tell you, I have never had someone walk out that wasn't proud of themselves, breathing like super deep, standing taller, like they felt refreshed after. And that's what you should feel after a good session.
Absolutely.
Like, it's one of those things for me. I take pride in my work. I want other people to be able to take pride in that too. I want you to enjoy yourself as much as I do. So communication, I think that is where so many people go wrong whenever they're trying to do negotiations, or the lack of negotiations. It's because they don't know how to approach it. They don't know how to talk about it. You're not going to ruin the moment. Like, just say whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. If you don't like something, be like, hey, I'm not really into that. Or, well, I'm not into it, but let's see where it goes. If I tell you I don't like it, then let's move on. If it is a dom that knows what they're doing and they're ethical, they're going to listen to everything you say, take it into account, and they're going to evolve in the scene just like you. But you got to communicate to do that, right?
If you had asked me 3 years ago if I would be into impact, I was a sensation person. Tie me up and do sensation on me.
Right.
I had a scene where I just had a really bad week and somebody was going to try flogging me. And I said, okay, I'll try that. Please, I'm not into pain. Please don't make it too hard.
Yeah.
And by the end of the scene, I said, you can't hit me hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now I've gone from enjoying flogging to enjoying heavy flogging to enjoying, oh my God, I'm saying this, paddles.
Okay. Also, while you're saying that, show us that hairbrush you got over there.
Oh, I wish I had my paddle out here. Yeah, this was Mistress Mary of Minnesota and Professor Gray were doing impact on me, and they said, damn it. And I said, what's wrong? And they showed me, and I broke a hairbrush of theirs. So I keep it up there as a memento. I usually have my catsuit paddle here. I have a paddle that literally has my name on the back of it that was given to me. And it is a nasty little wooden paddle, just nasty. But the other day, I had put out that thing about if you'd like to try something new with me. And a woman had never topped anybody but her husband, and she wanted to know what it felt like. And I had become friends with her husband on Fed as well. And so she tried it, and she said, well, I have these snapdragons and a dragon's tail. And I said, I'm not wild about them, but give them a try.
Right.
And suddenly I was like, oh, that's something.
Yeah.
And then somebody used the whip on me, and I was like, not sure, but at least I allowed myself the space to do it. And my queen, who is my best friend, Lady Catalyst out of Columbus, she was the one that kind of brought me into her kink family and is my best friend. She goes, oh my God, Jon, how you have grown. I love watching you grow. It makes me so proud.
Yeah.
And she can't wait for the next time she can play with me because she wants to beat the crap out of me, which she being a sadist, that makes her happy.
Yeah. It's fucking adorable.
What is your happy point? What are the things that make you happy within a scene?
I have so many things. So many things. I'm going to tell you right off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to mind is I feed off of my submissive. So I draw energy from them. So if they are enjoying themselves and I can feel it on their skin, I can taste it in the air, their aura is just speaking to me, I'm going to be more energized. And I tell you, I'm going to be more fucking excited for that session. And it's going to be the best fucking session of your life because you literally energize me. I feed off of you. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. My second is going to be pressure points. So whenever I am doing some kind of play that involves me applying pressure from like my pelvic region onto them. So whether that be like my harness, or if I have them bent over and I'm doing something that involves me being pressed up against them, I really, really enjoy that. I guess it's the closeness, those intimate little moments. I draw energy from that. Other than that, I know you don't like them. Whips are one of my favorite, but I like a riding crop. Riding crop is my absolute favorite. What is another one that I really get excited for? Any kind of foot or body worship is high on my list because I love worship. I love someone appreciating me on every level. So anybody that shows that they appreciate me, they call me by my name instead of making up names for me or thinking that they can choose things. Like, I'm not a fan of mistress. I have my own honorific for a reason. I prefer that. Well, some people that get into like this selfish subspace, the ones that are only there to get off, sometimes they'll be like, mistress, oh, and I'm like, you're kind of ruining my mood. You're turning me off. Because it's one of those things, we choose our titles for a reason. So I don't like the mistress, the title mistress, because I feel like they want to keep me as their dirty little secret. And I don't like being a dirty little secret. See, I've had too many people in my life try to hide their relationships with me or tell me that there's something wrong with who I am on some kind of level. Maybe I'm intimidating to them, or maybe I make them uncomfortable in some way. I was once dating this guy that he wanted to date me privately. He did not want his family to know that we were together because he didn't want to be tied publicly to a dominatrix. And I'm like, you don't get to love me in the closet. Like, that's not how it works. You either enjoy me as a human or you don't get me. Like, I need you to enjoy the whole package. And the title mistress reminds me of that. Like, I'm not going to be your closet kink. I'm not going to be, this hidden form of satisfaction for you, because that doesn't do it for me. So that is one of my huge turnoffs. And
I responded to a tweet the other day. I said, yes, comma, insert proper honorific here.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what she liked to be called.
I love it. I love it. I had a discussion with a huge group of pro doms. It's been several months back. We just had a giant discussion about honorifics and kind of safe play. And it was a great discussion. We were talking about kind of how everybody derives their own honorific. And there were so many people within that discussion that were like, yeah, like there's so many people that approach me and they call me by the name that they want me to have, not by my actual name. And I'm like, how can you be like just more negative, starting the vibe off negative to begin with? And then on top of that, to some people, it's quite disrespectful. Like, there's a reason they chose to not have whatever you're calling them. So it's one of those things, like, do your research or be like, oh, insert your own here.
Temptress Raven Eve is one of those people who actually loves to do co-topping sessions
Okay.
with Goddess Adara Jordan, and she'll probably throw a mistress in there somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
she's waiting for you to accidentally say mistress. She's
Mm-hmm.
waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
And during our interview, which if you go to YouTube on the Dating Kinky channel, it was the one interview I did where I was at her dungeon, and how I did the interview was up to her.
Right.
First time I was in a sex swing asking all the questions between my legs. And the
Nice.
second
I
time I
love it.
went, segment 1, I was on a St. Andrew's cross. Segment 2, I was in a straight jacket with a cloth hood over my head,
Mm-hmm.
asking the questions out of the hood. And segment 3 was in a spandex body bag with a banana, what she calls a banana split hood. And at the end of the show, she goes, "Okay, that's done." And she zips it and walks away.
I love it.
But I said, I think I started to say, and she goes, "You're lucky that this isn't a session right now, because I would beat the crap out of you." I said, yes, you would.
Oh, that's fucking adorable. I love it. I love it. Like, I guess over time I became more lax with people calling me mistress. Before, like, nah, I was chewing your fucking head off.
Mhm.
Somebody called me mistress, I'd be like, shut your fucking mouth, or I would block you. Like, I don't need that negativity. Now I am a lot more lax with it. I'm like, well, ultimately, you don't know me. I don't know you. So I'm not going to be super, super upset with you and like be over the top aggressive, because maybe you could potentially be a person of interest. Maybe
Mhm.
you could offer things to me. So now I'm much more lax, but I was very hostile in the beginning of my career. Whenever someone would call me mistress, I was probably worse than her when it came to that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
because I seen it as extremely offensive. Like, to me, that was a million times, you call me mistress was a million times worse than you calling me a bitch. I was like,
Mhm.
nah, fuck no, you're not calling me that shit. But I guess over my career, I became more tolerant, and it made me more compassionate. So sex work
Mhm.
has definitely made me be more empathetic to others when it comes to stuff like that. Like, people don't know my story. I can't attack someone because they don't know my story. So I really have sex work to thank for that. Which reminds me,
Mhm.
what has sex work taught you?
Well, I don't know if I've ever done sex work with the exception of playing a villain in the Ultra
Mm-hmm.
Girl series.
Oh, wait, what?
Yes, I there is a series done by S.H. Binder called Ultra Girl. He started with 1 or 2 models and now has more than 40 around the world playing the Ultra Girl character,
Mm-hmm.
including Kendra James is one of the most recent ones, and Randy Moore is one of the most recent ones. But asked me to play the Shadow Demon, and also because of my voice wanted me to play another character as well,
Mm-hmm.
the Purge. Except my voice is all distorted when I do that. But anyway, um, and so I got to play a villain where I was in a black Zentai suit, but by the time you saw me, I was just this puff of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And I would
Okay.
envelop people, and you wouldn't, because I'm so big, when I would envelop them, you couldn't see them behind, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it would be as though they disappeared. But yeah, so that would be content that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to start. I'm doing a documentary with a wonderful dom named Natalia Sidici
Mm-hmm.
down at Fetish Con. And what we're going to do is she wants to do a heavy rubber encasement scene with me
Ooh,
because I'm scared of it.
you're scared of it. Tell
I'm
me.
scared.
Mm.
I get claustrophobia, and
Okay.
I'm getting used to having my face covered and things
Okay.
like that. But we're going to shoot it with like 5 cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the first time you see the scene, you will hear my thoughts of what I was feeling like in the
Right.
scene. The second time you watch it, you will hear her thoughts
Mm-hmm.
about what she was feeling as she put me through this scene. And at
Right.
the end, we'll have a discussion with each other about how we felt with each other.
Yeah.
We're going to place it on educational platforms so people can understand the interplay
Yes.
between top and bottom.
Oh
And
my goodness. I'm here for it.
I am wanting to do this whenever I can possibly do it.
Yeah.
Because I think that by presenting this type of educational video where people can understand what a bottom is feeling or what a top is
Mhm.
feeling,
Mhm.
that the stigma can go away.
Yes.
No, she's not putting that thing next to my privates to get me off. She's
Yep.
doing it to make me feel fear.
Yep.
Where most people are like, well, she must be rubbing up against you. No, she's trying to make me uncomfortable, not get me
Yes.
off.
And the biggest thing people don't realize is when you're uncomfortable, that's when you grow the most.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
those little moments, whenever you are like, well, I don't know if I'm going to like this, or I don't know if this is for me. If you don't press past those, you're not going to grow. But if you do, you might like it. Hell, you might love it, but you don't know. You can't grow into finding out something more about yourself if you don't ever try.
Late last year, I had my first ever scene without my catsuit.
Mm-hmm.
I was naked.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
but the vulnerability I felt created a whole different mind space for me.
Right.
Would I do it again? Yes, with the right person,
Yeah.
with someone that I trust. And maybe that's part of my growing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've often said, and my queen did this once. We did a scene at Winter Wickedness where she ripped my suit off of me, and I was left with a tattered suit at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's because I wanted to play with Jon. I knew what it was like to play with catsuit.
Yeah.
And she symbolically played with both.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool too.
Yeah. I fucking love it. I love it.
And when a boob, I was wearing chicken cutlets, basically the fake boobs, and one went flying over towards another seat and rolled into another seat, and we were all like, "Oh God, you need an extra boob? Here you go."
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, from my
I'm super glad
curiosity
you
point,
have
oh, go ahead.
I'm super glad you have somebody that you can feel that safe space with, because not everybody has that. So I'm super, super glad that you have that experience.
However, I had that experience with someone who is going to become my dom,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the one and only scene we ever had.
Yeah.
Because she ended up having family issues and couldn't continue in that role.
Yeah.
So it broke my heart, actually,
Yeah.
because I was to the point of, oh my God, I'm finally not going to have to ask constantly for opportunities to play.
Right.
Because that's the part of kink that's been difficult for me.
Right. Oh yeah.
I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
And so you feel like you're having to beg and ask. And then sometimes people go, I find you interesting and I want to play with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how it started turning recently.
Right.
The last two scenes I had, I didn't have to go out and ask.
Mm-hmm.
They came and asked me.
Right. An invitation.
And I was like, wow.
And that's nice.
Oh, it's
That is super
beautiful.
nice.
Believe me, it's beautiful. I mean, that's been the thing that's made me want to give up kink more than anything, is just feeling totally lonely, because I live by myself.
Yeah.
I was in a 20-year marriage and a 7-year separation, and I am really looking forward to the time where I can get back into a relationship. And I had a
Yes.
date the other night, which was the first time I had a date with somebody in the lifestyle, but it was just a date.
Right.
And it felt great.
Yeah.
And it was nice to be able to feel that again.
Yes, 100%. Now, with the issues that you had, I know you said that you had a divorce. With your ex-wife, was she into kink in any way? Was she like against it? How did she feel about it?
In one of our first dates, when we had gone away to Vancouver, British Columbia, I brought a catsuit with me. And I put it on and hid under the covers. And when she pulled the covers off, I went, surprise. And she goes, I don't ever want to see you in that ever again. And yeah, I still married her.
Yeah.
We had one kink scene in our entire marriage. I was topping her. She seemed like she enjoyed it, but then the last 10 years of our marriage had zero intimacy.
Oh,
And it was after I had bought her a dream house, and it had zero. And once we moved in that house, we were never intimate again. And so I was what I will call fluidly or sexually faithful to her all the way until the time where I moved out.
Yeah.
Now, I did go to kink parties and did, with the exception of that one time when somebody did CBT on me, my privates were off limits.
Right.
Because I wanted to just feel, things. It wasn't that I wanted to get off.
Right.
And then once I separated and moved away, then I started getting into the, oh, well, I can try this now. But sex is very rarely a part of my, part of what happens in my scenes. I mean, I could count on one hand the number of times where I've actually come from a scene. As a matter of fact, one of them was with Amanda Wildfire. And here I am in this bag, and I didn't have any, very powerful vibrator. I didn't have any choice.
Right.
And at the end I went, you didn't have to do that. And they went, well, we thought you'd like it. And I went, it was nice. I mean, the reactions I've gotten from people when they do something and they're like, oh, I used, when I went to Winter Wickedness, I actually had a ribbon on my badge that said sweet and innocent. And they went, yeah, John's the only one that can actually wear that.
Yeah.
At Fetish Con, I love telling this story. At Fetish Con, I had a huge hotel room that I was sharing with the Ultra Girl producer. And he had to leave early. So I had this huge hotel room. And so we had 10-foot ceilings. So I invited somebody who had a rope rig to come set up the rope rig in the room. Why not? Right. Yeah. And I said, but your rent is you're going to have to tie me in the corner and make me watch everything. Yeah. Well, they tied me in the corner, but somebody said, oh, no, you're not watching. I'm going to mess with you. And she started messing with me, put a blindfold on me. And next thing I feel is this hair going back and forth on my head and all over my body. And before I knew it, I realized there is a woman in a leather catsuit that is crawling over top of me. That wasn't the original person that was messing with me. And this other person who I knew to be a fetish model was taking pictures. And after they took the blindfold off me, I said, I'm really enjoying somebody in a leather catsuit being on top of me. And it turned out she was a porn star from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I was like, oh my God, actually, have you had her on the show? It was Heather. Heather Davis from Las Vegas, or am I getting shows confused? I'm getting shows confused.
Yeah, I had Crystal Davis.
Crystal Davis. I'm sorry, I'm getting names. Yeah, Crystal Davis. Yeah. That's who it was. So she's going to kill me next time I see her. I'm not a Heather. But it was Crystal Davis. That's who it was. Oh, by the way.
The funny thing is she told me a story about how she had called someone another name and no one told her anything about it. So she was literally calling a guy a certain name the entire scene. And right at the end, they're like, oh, well, that's not his name. And she's like, what? I've been calling him this the whole time.
So I'm having this this amazing scene, and Paula Diamonds is taking pictures of all this. And she goes, ooh, apparently you like smothering. And I went, okay. And I said, can you take a picture of Crystal on top of me? Sure. And so she takes a picture. She goes, actually, we need one more picture. And so I'm tied in a chair like this.
Mm-hmm.
And Paula gets up and straddles me and just takes a seat and starts taking pictures. Paula gets off of me and says, so did you enjoy that? And I went, interesting. She's like, what the interesting? I said, my dear, in my 59 years, I've never had a woman do that to me. And she went, oh my God. And then she sat back down. And then got back up. Did you enjoy it more that time? I said, it was lovely. Thanks.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wear this sweet and innocent tag because I am still discovering things, because I had 20 years of marriage where 10 of it was not intimate. And I am still, when we play Never Have I Ever, I raised my hand when I said, never have I ever had sex in anything but this or this. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm still learning.
Yeah,
So
like a little baby.
I'm like, I'm putty that you can mold into whatever you'd like to.
Like a little baby in a cat suit. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Oh my goodness. So you literally have never like had sex in your cat suit?
I think I tried it once with a girlfriend. I've dry humped in a cat suit, but I have never had sex in my cat suit that I can remember. Most of the time I've come in my cat suit is because either vibration or somebody has tied me in a way that I basically got off on it.
Right.
But no. I mean, I explained to somebody that I have never gone down on a woman naked because I never had the opportunity. Now I've done it with a cat suit on, which apparently I'm pretty good at, but no, it's just I've never had the opportunity. And I turned 60 in May, and I want to enjoy some of this stuff, because I know by the time I get to 70, I may be able to do it, but I don't know how much I'm going to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm taking
do you have a bucket list?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about this bucket list.
Well, I'm for my 60th birthday, I'm actually being invited by somebody to come down and have an immersive weekend with them. So a lot of my bucket list may go away.
Okay.
Because I may get to do it. I want to have a full scene in a vac bed. I want to be tied with my feet off. I want to be tied upright with my feet off the floor and be teased to the point where I can't get down from it. I want to be kept in a Darlex bondage bag, or a very tight bondage bag at some point. Hold on, now you're asking me a question that honest to God, I have written about it. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hopefully my video didn't disappear. Hopefully I'm still here.
Oh, you're here. You're here.
But let me see if I can find it, and hopefully it won't take me too long to find it. Luckily, I have a thing that says, if you're interested about any of my writings, click here. They're all here. So that's what I'm looking for. Bingo, bucket list towards the end. And I've updated it a couple times. more bondage, please.
Of
I'm going
course,
through
of
I'm going
course.
through some of my articles here. Command F bucket. And of course it didn't show it. Oh darn, I'm so sorry. Well, we'll get back to that at some point. But yes, my bucket list list includes an immersion scene, which I'll get to
Mhm.
do for my birthday. I think my ultimate bucket list is to have a dom that appreciates me for me, and
Mhm.
that I would be I I would be able to make her my number one priority while
Right.
she knows that I'm hers. I've never
Yes.
had that.
That's fucking beautiful.
I've
I'm gonna
never had
tell you.
I haven't had a lot of regular play partners.
Yeah.
I had one during COVID, ironically
Right.
enough, and we were quarantine mates. And every Saturday we would do a switch scene. I
Mhm.
would top, then she would top, or then we'd switch it up the next
Right.
week. But we'd always have dinner in between the scenes,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it was the most beautiful time I had. But that's really, if I could ever find anybody that would give me the honor of doing that, I would be forever in their debt. And I was
Right.
actually talking to somebody the other day about, what do you call someone who is willing to do anything for you at any time for you without you ever having to ask them, because they want to, not because they have to?
Right.
Some people would call that a slave. But what if there's no dynamic there? What if that person just exists?
Yeah.
And I said, that's somebody who loves somebody else.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
so I would
what's so
love to
weird
be
is
able to
people think
do
that
that
those
for,
can't mingle.
yeah. I mean,
Anybody that is really a part of the life want that. They want to be able to mingle the two. They want to be able to have their life, which is, the BDSM, all of that,
mhm,
and be able to share it with someone that appreciates it as much as they do. I
mhm.
know you kind of had that neglected for a long time. So that kind of leads me to my question about kind of how you got into it. How did your interests develop? Like, how early did you know about the cat suit and the bondage?
3 years old. I am old enough to have watched Batman
Mm-hmm.
in its original airing.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Not the reruns, the
Right.
original airings.
Right.
So at age 3, I was obsessed with Batman, who would get tied up at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
And I was even more obsessed with Batgirl and Catwoman.
Oh yeah.
And there was also a show called The Avengers, which
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with the Marvel Avengers, that starred a woman by the name of Diana Rigg as Emma Peel. Before her was Honor Blackman as Kathy Gale. And they were the first badass women on television.
Mm-hmm.
And Emma
Was it?
Peel would wear a catsuit many, many times. And so at age 3, this is getting imprinted on me. So when
Mhm.
I went into puberty, the first time I ever had an orgasm, I was watching Batman, and Catwoman was tying up Batman. I think it was on the barbecue scene with the big
Mhm.
magnifying glasses. It was the
That's
Julie Newmar Catwoman.
I kind of find that ironic because Catwoman was literally one of my first crushes.
Mhm.
I one of my first crushes that I can remember being a young child was to Catwoman. I actually have this kink group that I had started on Facebook because I want to be able to kind of help people in Kentucky because there's nothing fucking here,
Mhm.
especially not for like the kink community or swingers or anything just kind of dabbling in the community. There's nothing here. So I started a group there and I shared some stuff about Catwoman. And I'm like, this is probably the first of many crushes. Like, I bet
Mhm.
there's a ton of people that had their first crush be Catwoman. Like, who doesn't love a badass woman
Mhm.
dressed all sexy in this cat? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
how can you not be attracted to that?
So the first time I had an orgasm was to that. And
Mhm.
then but then I didn't know what it was. I'm
Okay.
like, what in the
So it just
what's
happened on
going?
its own.
Yeah. It was like,
Hmm, okay.
what's going on? And then the second time and the third time. So it was about 7 times. And I'm going, is something wrong with me? Because I had no clue.
Right.
And then this was in the time when aerobics was first starting.
Okay.
So I found a pair of tights in our storage room and put them on and loved the way they felt.
hmm
And
This
my
was still
mom
when
used
you
to
were a
take her
kid.
when I was in puberty.
Okay.
And when my mom would go to aerobics classes and she'd leave her leotards and tights in the hamper, and I'd try them on and realize that they turned me on.
hmm
And as I grew up, I started being able to get my own outfits. But around the time I was in high school, I actually bought some tights and some leotards and some cat suits and really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But then I'd go through binging and purging because I'd be like, I need to be normal. Why can't I just be normal?
Yeah.
But if I went on a date and the girl was wearing pantyhose, I'd be touching them because it was fetishized. So
Right.
I had no choice in this. It was
Right.
imprinted on me just like any kind of sexuality would be imprinted on me. And I wanted to be normal, but then I realized I never wasn't normal,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I didn't discover it until my 50s.
Yeah.
And so I wasted all this time. And now I'm trying to make up for it.
Right.
And that's
Well,
difficult too.
I am super glad that you accepted that part of yourself, though. Some people deny it up until so late in life. They hit a crisis and then they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
So you kind of hit it at a point where you can still live it. Like, you still
Mhm.
have the opportunity, and that's a beautiful thing all on its own.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to every single experience that I can, because when it fuels me up, it's the thing that makes me feel joy and makes me feel like I really am. I'm as happy being catsuit as I am being Jon. I spend more time being catsuit than I am Jon because of this podcast.
Yeah, right.
I go down to Fetish Con and I'm not famous for being an old pro wrestling announcer or an old basketball announcer. They know me as Catsuit, the guy who does the podcast.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now this year I'm going to be going down and I'm going to be doing things like hosting the red carpet and doing interviews with people down there as the official podcast of Fetish Con. And I go
Mhm.
back and go, how did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love it. I super love it. And I was super excited whenever I started following you on Twitter and I seen what your name was.
And now you know why. And I'm actually getting measured for some new ones. I'm going to get a couple from Hirogado, which is a place that I'd love to, when I buy them kind of off the rack.
Mhm.
But the ones from Mr. Pierre, I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be fun to have something that's custom made for me. That'll be
Yes.
really cool. And that's what I'm
Like,
hoping to be hosting the red carpet on, wearing these.
nice.
I said to him and his designer, I said, I want you to imagine what a tuxedo would be if it was a cat suit. I don't
Yeah.
want you to make a tuxedo on a cat suit. I
Right.
want you to reimagine what it could be.
Yeah.
And like I like to do in my scenes, I gave him a vision of it
Yeah.
rather than saying, well, I want you to do this here and this here and this here. And that's why a lot of people enjoy negotiating with me. I don't say I want you to do this, 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 and this. I said, I want you to my standard negotiation is make me be stuck in a moment I can't get out of.
Mm-hmm. Because
I
that
said
could mean so many things. Yeah.
that could mean heavy bondage. which I wish somebody would take that hint sometime. Heavy bondage, heavy impact, a sensation scene, a mindfulness scene.
Hmm.
I've had the most amazing mindfulness scene that literally went on for an entire day, yet we were only in each other's presence for an hour.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
it was one of the most amazing scenes I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Made me cry for a week.
Yeah. Good.
Um, I have been a very, very lucky human. I would say a lucky man, but man doesn't define who I am anymore.
Right.
And so I actually am very, very much an advocate of using preferred pronouns at
Right.
work. I actually started a program at work that people to this day say, Jon, if it weren't for you, this very conservative company wouldn't even think about it, and you've
Yeah.
made them think about it. I'm very
Yeah.
proud of that.
As you should be. Yeah. Because to some people, that's super, super serious. Just like I used to be really like defensive about my honorific. To some people,
Mhm,
they're really defensive about that just because there could be trauma associated with that. We
mhm,
don't know all their stories either, you know? Like I'm non-binary, but I go by any pronouns. Like none
mhm.
of them are going to offend me, which is why it cracks me up sometimes whenever I'm talking to somebody and they're trying to offend me and they say, "Oh, well, you look like a man or you act like a man." Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
There
I'm
was
in
a
daddy mode
story
right now.
there was a story I told in a TED Talk, and yes, I've given a TEDx talk. I'm very proud of it. But my son went into us, and he says, "Dad, you're exaggerating," but it was pretty much this way. My son went into his new school in Texas,
Mhm.
and a kid said, and pardon my verbiage here. It's I'm telling it so you can understand the story. He goes, "Hey, you fag,"
Mhm.
and my son goes, "I think you just called me a homosexual, and I know have a lot of homosexual friends. They're the kindest, gentlest, most non-judgmental people that I know. So I
Yeah.
think you gave me a compliment. I actually like girls, so you're a little bit off on that. But thank you for the compliment, and hope you have a great day."
Yes. I love it.
Boom. Mic drop.
Right. Oh, man, I
And
love
I
it.
I love that. Something that made me think about your honorific thing, and I think it goes to patriarchy and misogynistic type things.
Yep.
They call you something, but have they earned the right to call you anything?
I was in the same mindset, let me tell you. I was in the same mindset. And that's kind of originally how I chose my honorific. I'm going to let you know that whenever I started my professional journey, it was one of those things where I did still have some resentment. 100%. I did. And it's because I grew up in the Bible Belt. I grew up with people thinking that women were the weaker vessel. I grew up with people saying women has a place, and they always had these women jokes about, oh, well, women belong in the kitchen. Women aren't good enough to do this. Women aren't allowed to do that. So, I mean, the majority of my life, I was literally completely suppressed, neglected, and told that I had no value.
Mm,
So whenever I came out as a pro dom, I was like, this is what I choose because of that. And then kind of after I grew into who I am today, I stayed true to kind of, the honorific I originally selected. But at the same time, I feel like I could change between queen and king because now I don't have that resentment.
mhm,
Over time, I evolved. I became a better person. I let go of my past trauma and I forgave people in my life that did all that negative shit. And I stopped holding resentment to people that didn't even do anything to me
mhm.
because of the negative energy that I carried. So it's one of those things. Yeah, you can pick an honorific, but just like anything else in your brand, that could change over time.
Mhm.
Mine, I still love it, but I could see myself interchangeably using king or something like that, you
Mhm.
know?
I have an honorific based on queen,
Mhm.
actually, even though I am a sub or a bottom, and
Mhm.
that is my queen, Lady Catalyst, knighted me at a kink convention.
I
And
love it.
so I am Sir Catsuit John of the Catalyst table, first knight of the Catalyst table, actually. And the reason she did that is she wanted for us to declare our love in front of everybody.
Mhm.
And people are like, "Are you dating? I didn't realize you were dating.
Yeah.
Are you all sexually?" And we're like, "No, we're each other's best friend. We love each other."
Yeah.
And the night part was because she said, "John, I don't need a king. I need somebody to stand beside me all the time, never stand behind me,
Yeah.
and stand in front of me if I ever need them to."
Yeah.
And I went, "I am honored to be that for you."
Yes. And that's another example of those beautiful relationships that don't have to be sexual, but they're still valid. You can still have friendships. You can literally love someone and not be in a sexual relationship.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess a lot of people don't think about that. There's a lot of people that are in the kink community that are asexual,
Mhm.
and people don't realize that.
I believe in an infinite amount of love, and
Mhm.
that was the problem I had in my marriage.
Right.
My ex believed that there was a finite amount of love and there's a pie.
Mhm.
And when you take a piece of the pie out, that it's gone forever.
Yeah.
But I believe that the pie is infinite.
Right.
Just you can love a number of people as long as the person that you have pledged your love to is one of those people that you love. Now,
Yes.
that is not saying sex.
Right.
That is saying love.
Right. And
And
I think a
so,
lot of people get that confused too.
mhm. And so, there are many people that I love, and I will never be apologetic for that.
Right. Yes. Nor should you be. Which kind of leads me to a question that I have for you.
Mhm.
I know some people get confused kind of with what realm they're in because of sex work or because of BDSM. Do you consider yourself monogamous or polyam?
Oh, wow. What a great question, because I answered this the other day. And I'm trying to remember exactly how I answered it. I am My heart is monogamous when it comes to making a commitment towards one person.
Hmm.
However, I would not that hold that person to monogamy with me if it came to them wanting other play partners,
Right.
or if someone genuinely made them happy sexually.
Right.
As long as they made me their priority and came home to me, if that was the case, because I don't
Right.
think I'm ever going to be able to live with anybody, because I'm very comfortable being me, and a lot of the people I
Hmm.
meet comfortable being them.
Right.
But you know what I mean when I say come home to.
Yeah, for sure.
I see the world of polyamory as a giant game of Jenga.
Hmm.
You start out with this solid foundation and this solid structure. But as polyamory goes, because things will happen,
Hmm.
little pieces get taken out throughout the relationship.
Right.
I don't like feeling unstable.
Right.
So the more pieces that would be taken out, the tougher it would be for me to be in that.
Hmm.
Now, I am looking at someone that I would very much like to have as my partner. I don't know if she sees it in that way. It's too early
Right.
in the relationship, but as we move down, but she is very much a dom-like person and wants to have different subs that make her their priority.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of how they would see me in that. So my answer to that is, because I'm dating, I'm not going to be monogamous in the fact that I'm still searching.
Right.
I picture myself as being romantically and committed monogamous, but with the open mind that because I am not, I don't want to use the word experience, but because I am not that great at sexual relationships right now, that I would not want to cheat them out of that.
Right.
I'm not a cuck. I don't want to see them doing it, but
Right.
I don't want to cheat them out of it.
Right.
That's a very convoluted answer to your question,
It's a
but
good answer.
it's an honest answer. I dream of somebody making me their priority,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to start crying if I keep thinking about it. But that's what I dream about. I never had that
Right.
in my marriage.
Yeah.
I was number 7 under the dogs and cats somewhere.
Yeah. Which
But
is,
that's
it's extremely sad. That's extremely sad
but that's
because
what kink does for me, though, is
Mhm.
even in a co-top situation, the bottom is the single entity that is being focused on. It
Yeah.
is the priority for the
Yes.
top. And it's the time I can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of explains it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I fucking love it. I love it. So that kind of leads me to, like, I've talked to a ton of people about not just on the podcast but just in general, because I'm a curious person. I like to know about other people. I like to know how their brains work. So I would always pick people's brains about relationships, and I found that um a lot of people like the idea of polyam, but they don't like the actual effort of polyam. So it's one of those situations where they have like the swinger kind of mindset. So they think that they can just go have playmates and they don't have to do anything with those playmates afterward.
Yeah.
And they don't truly understand what being in a polyam relationship is. So I've had so many people approach me and ask me to be their unicorn, okay, especially in Kentucky, because there's none here. Be real. There are no unicorns in Kentucky. And if there are, usually it's some kind of transaction kind of situation. You know what I mean? And I don't have anything against that. I mean, I have dabbled myself because I appreciate all sex work, but people just don't understand polyam. They think that, oh, well, I can just have this friends with benefits and I don't have to invest in the relationship, which kind of reminded me of what you were talking about. In a polyam relationship, you make all of your partners a priority. It's not one of those things you can be like, oh, well, I only want to grow this relationship and this other one I only want whenever I want playtime. That's not how relationships work. So for me, it's super insulting whenever people are like, oh, yeah, I'm poly. And it's like, okay, well, tell me how you're poly. Oh, well, I have 3 girlfriends. Okay, what do you mean you have 3 girlfriends? Well, one of them lives with me and the other 2 I just kind of go spend time with and we fuck and then I come home to my other one. So you're saying you have fuck buddies. You don't have a relationship. No, we have a relationship. No, you don't, because you're not investing. To have a relationship, you have to invest. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel like these people are truly poly, or do you feel like this is like some kind of time passing fun moment for them and they're kind of confused?
I have been around a poly couple or poly couple. There's a square. There's 2 poly couples. they're the people behind the Swinky Life and Accidental Swingers, have a very successful podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The four of them and I are good friends.
Okay.
When I met them at Kinky College, I got to know each of them and just never tried to put things together. But then when I met them in Florida, they took me out to dinner, and I was having dinner with the four of them, and I realized halfway through dinner that the people they were sitting next to was not their spouse. It was the other's partner.
Yeah.
And that's the way I thought they were, because it was so natural for them
Yeah.
to be with each other. That's when I think poly works.
Yes.
If it's a friends with benefits situation, it's a friends with benefits situation.
Yeah.
But if there is true love there, all the power to you.
Yeah.
But it does take work.
Lots.
And I'm not sure I'm up for that work, because I spent so long trying to convince the person I love that I love them unconditionally, and it still didn't work. So I don't know what my life is going to be like. I know what I'd like it to be like.
Right.
But, you know, I started with a dom and thought I would never have to ask for a new kink partner ever again. And it lasted one session, and it wasn't from anything that I did.
Yeah.
I don't blame her for it, because people have lives.
Yeah.
But I just hope I get the chance. So to answer your question, all the power to you if you have genuine love there. But if you're just in it for the sex, then check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. See, I give that discussion so much. I try to educate people, because the whorephobia is crazy. People get in this, oh, well, you're a whore, that's a bad thing. It is not a bad thing to be a whore. What is a bad thing is for you to not know what you are and claim to be something else. And then you have all this confusion for yourself. You have all this confusion for other people. And ultimately it ends up being a mess, kind of like the Jenga you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it ends up being a complete mess. Like, find yourself before you try to tell other people who and what you are. Because if you're confused about it, you're going to be confused on a level that you can't allow growth for yourself, and anybody else you interact with. You can potentially confuse them, or be some kind of trauma related events that end up harming the situation more than helping them. And I think a lot of people just have trouble admitting who and what they are.
Yeah.
And that's fear from society, or kind of like in your situation, your mate disapproved. And that itself, that's exhausting. To have to wear a mask and not be yourself is exhausting.
And the other side of it is exhausting too, which is, I'm an open book. I'm about as vulnerable as you could tell from this entire interview. I don't hide things.
Right.
People see my pain. People see my happiness. I don't pretend to be a martyr or any greater thing, but I don't drink. I've never taken illicit drugs in my life. I do have anxiety medication, but all the pain that I feel, I don't have a way of putting it away.
Right.
And so I have to persevere, and I have to keep going. So every time I get knocked down, I have to get back up again.
Yeah.
And so that's exhausting. And it's exhausting for other people, because they're like, God damn it, Jon, this person was perfect for them. Why didn't they see that? Well, you're going to find somebody. They're right around the corner. And I go, 7 years, people, 7 years.
Yeah.
Since I've felt like somebody's priority.
Yeah.
Do I want you to feel sorry for me? No. Do I want somebody to go, damn, there's probably a lot of energy in there that of appreciation of service. I mean, that's where I said, what do you call somebody who gives of themselves unselfishly just because that's who they are?
There are
And
two
people,
things that I call people that
yeah,
put themselves in that position to serve. They're either a mate or a pet,
mhm,
because they mean something. They have a fucking title because they do have meaning. You know what I mean?
mhm. And so I would like to be that for somebody. And I want everybody to be able to feel that.
Yeah.
And I share my story because when I write my writings on FetLife, people will say, Jon, I felt like I was in the scene with you,
Mm-hmm.
or I feel what you're feeling.
Right.
And some people say, oh, he probably just wants people to feel sorry for him. I don't give a damn if you feel sorry for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to know what I'm going through,
And
because
you're real.
and people can't believe that somebody can exist like that,
Yeah.
because so many people have, and I'm not going to use an F-bomb, but so many people have F'd things up that
Mm-hmm.
I have to climb over that heap of flaming garbage that they
Yeah.
have just to go, I'm here.
Right. Yeah.
And that's tiring as hell.
Yes. Completely. And it's so exhausting that it can literally cripple you. Like, I have
Mhm.
literally seen it physically and mentally cripple people.
And
And you get,
it can take the ultimate toll.
yeah, yes, it can. And well, that's another reason I originally came out. I came into the public eye and I started being a pro dom, not just a lifestyle dom. It was because one of the people that I had talked to, they joined my YouTube channel and they said that they had watched some of my YouTube videos about self-help, about kind of holding on to yourself, finding yourself and loving yourself. And they said that after they started watching my YouTube channel, it gave them the willpower to not give up, to
Mhm.
not take their life. And I'm like, I'm so glad. And that gave me, them reaching out and telling me that gave me positive feedback, for one. And two, it let me know that I was making a difference in somebody's life, and it made me want to continue doing what I was doing because my message was being received.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to come out more as myself, and I'm going to be my true self. I'm not going to be this stupid fucking image or what somebody else wants me to be. I'm not going to sell out. I'm going to be me. I'm going to let people know that it's okay to be real and it's okay to be weird, because listen, I'm a fucking weirdo and I'm okay with that. And you should be okay with that too, you know?
And I'm just a 60-year-old, 6'4" male appearing person who looks fabulous in a cat suit.
I love that cat suit, that
Thank
cat
you.
suit. I remember whenever you first showed me the picture of it, I was like, at first it reminded me of a painting, and I'm like, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I'm getting one that's similar to this that will actually have a heart sublimated in it, which
Mhm.
I think is appropriate for me.
Yes. Yes. Now, have like, with the different kinds of material that cat suits can be made out of, what
Mhm.
is your favorite material?
Nylon and spandex. And if you want me to answer specifically, it is the satin spandex that Leo Hex and Amercy and Hirogado use. If
Mhm.
it's nylon spandex, it breathes. I mean, this is
Mhm.
polyester spandex, so it doesn't breathe as well, but
Right.
I like it for the glitter in it.
Yeah.
And yes, it does conduct electricity,
Yeah.
as somebody put a violet wand on it the other day, and I realized that there's little metal fragments in here, and I went, oh, okay. Um, but the dancer spandex is the best. I mean, I love
Mhm.
Danskin tights. They don't make them anymore, but their
Yeah.
ultra shimmery tights were the best.
Yeah.
But the material that Leo Hex uses is just phenomenal. They're available on Amazon. Amercy is also available on Amazon. Hirogado is their own company out of Japan, and they make all these really funky suits.
Right.
Winter Fetish out of Seattle. Tanya Winter made the original Zentai suits that were worn in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the original Green Man suits. Her material, which is heavyweight, and it's made to play for bondage and BDSM games. Right. It's really great material too. All of them are great. I'd love sending anybody to Winter Fetish. You're always going to get a quality made product. I'm looking forward to working with Mr. Pierre. I would love to have an official catsuit of catsuit. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I'm looking forward to it happening someday. Who knows, as this podcast continues on, I never thought I'd make it past 30 episodes, and we're passing 150 now. So, but there has never been a commercial sold on it the entire time, because everything that you hear in there is me trying to help a friend make their thing better. So if you're wondering if I do this for the money, I like to raise money. I mean, right. I'll tell you that if for some reason you want to support what I am doing, and that's not you, but anybody, it's pretty simple. It's bit.ly/thanks catsuit. Pretty easy. But I've had some people who sent me to FetishCon last year. I've had some people help me buy some podcasting equipment, but it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Because I can't ask for things as tribute, because it's not tribute.
Right.
I say, if I've done something that makes you feel good, I appreciate it. I'm not expecting it.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to ask too.
You're the fucking cutest. You're the fucking cutest.
Oh, thank you. Oh, shucks.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So whenever, I know you said that it was kind of hard for you whenever you were looking for playmates and stuff, and you kind of just put out there into the world, kind of, if you're looking for a playmate, kind of, how do you look for someone to play with? Like, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for someone who I can form a connection with, first and foremost. I'm looking for someone who understands that it is not about sex, it is about the moment. I'm looking for someone who understands that my catsuit is something that brings me enjoyment,
right?
But is willing to maybe look beyond that at some point.
Yeah.
I look for someone who receives joy from the top space, but also receives joy from the energy that I put out. And I'm looking for somebody who realizes that when the scene is over, that woo energy that I have towards you is appreciation that's pouring out.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in your pants. I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
And if it ever turns into something different than that, involves naturally, I will welcome it.
Right.
But the fact is, I'm looking for those moments. I'm addicted to those moments. Yeah. And so the perfect play partner, of course, wears a catsuit. No, it very rarely happens. But if they understand the catsuit thing, they can have, as I mentioned, that scene I had last week where it can bring amazing things to you. But
right.
And the main thing that I want from a play partner is someone who is genuine. Somebody that's not putting on an act.
Right.
And even if they have a character behind them, that they put it away for me.
Yeah.
And so I have a number of people that have said if I lived near them, they would be my partner. I just haven't found it here in Cincinnati.
Yeah. And
hopefully one day I will. I have hopes because I've met a couple of people that could happen.
Right.
But my track record hasn't been great. So I'm keeping those hopes alive, but also protecting my heart like mad because I have to.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to let it go though.
A lot of people don't really understand the difference in infatuation and love. So they get into relationships, the newness is there, they're so excited, there's fireworks, and then it slowly becomes less interesting. And then they're like, oh, well, I fell out of love. You didn't fall out of love. You don't fall out of love. Love is energy. What you lost was the infatuation that you had originally in the relationship, that spark. And I feel like so many people just don't understand that. And relationships become toxic over time because they think they fell out of love. Like, that's not what it is. You need to have some kind of relationship with somebody before you do sexual stuff. Like, I'm a firm believer that you need a foundation before you become sexual. A lot of people would disagree with me, and I'm fine with that, but I'm a long-term domina. And I firmly believe that in order for the longevity, I feel like you need that initial connection. You need that, deep, strong foundation before it becomes sexual. Some people disagree with me.
No. Well, I recently was ghosted on a third date. I mean, right up until the day before, it was like, oh, great, I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
And I sat in the restaurant and totally got stood up for the third date.
Oh.
And when I look back at it, because we had made out on the first 2 dates and I had not done that in a while, and I was really excited about it, found it really fun.
Yeah.
I think I got ghosted because the old thing is, well, on the third date, that's when you do it.
Yeah.
And they had no clue that that wasn't my intention whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. And you see, that's what I tell all of anybody that is in my life. I become friends with, and then you have to be my best friend. I have to know you years before I want to date you. And that's what I tell everybody. Like, I don't care who you are. That's what I tell everybody. You have to be my friend first. Then I want you to be my best friend. After my best friend, then we'll talk about dating. And there's a reason I do that. It's because I want to know you on every fundamental level before I let you have the other stuff, because I want to know if it's going to work or not. I want to know if that compatibility is going to help us stay together. Because again, I don't take being my mate lightly. Like, I don't take someone being my sub lightly. I like to have a good working relationship because I don't half-ass anything. And for some people, that's too much. For some people, I'm too much because I like to be too in-depth and it scares people away. I understand that. And I'm okay with that. If you just want to maybe like purchase my time one time, fine, whatever. But if you're looking to be my mate, I require investment.
And for me, I will totally admit a fault I have is I love being in love. I love the feeling that it brings to belong to somebody.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I wish for it too much. I mean, the fact that I'll get texts from somebody and it makes me feel great, makes me feel like, oh my God, it's possible. And I have to slow the F down.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself to do that.
Yeah.
But when I know that it's starting to change is when I don't have to be scared of every word I send. Because there have been times when I will send a text and I'll go, oh shit, is she going to not like me anymore? Oh God, what I don't mean to send that. Yeah. And it's only very recently that I've started to be able to send a text and not think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, be confident in it, right?
But it's been so hard to be confident because my batting average is below the Mendoza line. There's an old reference that nobody gets, but I made myself laugh for some reason. I will go to the Moulin Rouge quote.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest love that you will, the greatest thing that you will ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. That's what I want.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I love it. You know, I am one of those kind of hopeless romantic people, so I can completely identify with that. I feel like people don't want to put effort into relationships, and it's so tiring. I remember I was trying to date someone a while back, and I've known this person since I was in high school, and I was kind of interested in them then, but I knew that it wasn't a good time. It was one of those I guess kind of horror phases that they were going through. So it was just like they just wanted to kind of mess with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that type of person. So I'm like, well, I'm not interested. Fast forward, many, many years later. And this person's like, well, I have been interested. I've always been interested. And we've been friends since high school. It wasn't one of those things where we just kind of knew each other. Like I was friends with this individual. And we had gotten really close over the past 2 years. Well, I told them that one of my pet peeves is me messaging or checking on you, just like, hey, how's your day? Or, what are you up to today? Just like checking in. And for them to not reply back. So I'm telling them, I'm even giving them that information. I'm like, don't make me feel like you're ghosting me. So, at first, super punctual, for the first few days after I explained that. And then it got to be they would only reply every day, like at the end of the day, or every other day. And then it got to be they wouldn't reply for a week. And then it got to be they wouldn't reply for a month. And then they were like, well, I would really like it if you would consider me your boyfriend, if we could kind of date. And I'm like,
oh, jeez.
No.
No.
Like we're friends. We're friends. I want to spend time with you. But the more I try to help you meet the standards I have to be in a relationship, and the more you keep failing, is the more I'm going to pull away from you. Because I'm literally telling you what my needs are and you're ignoring them.
And when you tell them your needs, you have given them an expectation of what you need. I think the definition of when you finally have someone that is the perfect person to be with is you were the first person that they think of in the morning and you're the last person they think of at night.
Yeah. Yes.
During the day, things may go up and down and up and down. But if you're that first person they think of in the morning and the last person they think of at night.
Yes.
And to me, that's ultra important. I mean, my queen and she has a wonderful boyfriend now, so we don't get to talk as much as we often do, but we genuinely, we love each other with all our hearts and all that. Right. But sometimes we will just send 3 emojis. In my case, I send a cat, a purple heart, and a queen emoji. And then she sends a queen emoji, a purple heart, and a cat emoji. And that might be the only thing we'll say to each other all day. Yeah. But that's, hey, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah. And that's to develop all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my. It's just like standards for relationships have just dropped so much. And you would think with the world being revolving so much around tech, it's easier to communicate.
No, it's people have forgotten how to communicate.
Yes.
People can't talk to each other. They have to text each other.
Yes.
I said to somebody, hey, I'd love to have a FaceTime. Oh my God, I can't do that. Well, you can have a face-to-face conversation with me, can't you?
Yeah. No, people are
And
super scared of that.
yeah.
Like, I understand those people that, again, approach you like you're a fetish. Anybody that's listening that knows what I'm talking about, there are people out there that will literally be completely disrespectful and call you expecting you in that moment to help them get off. Yeah, it happens to me
Oh my God.
all the
No,
time,
no.
Jon. It's
Mm,
so ridiculous. I have literally blocked so many men. Only men do this. I've blocked so many men that have done that. They literally, hey, baby, are you busy right now? Call me, expecting me to help them out. And I'm like, one, you're super fucking disrespectful. Two, you did not pay me for this time. Three, I have no interest in you. Like, stop.
mm-hmm.
But my point is, whenever it comes to situations like that, I understand you not wanting to take a FaceTime. Okay.
Yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, like if you're having a general chat or it's like a friend or something, like,
Mm-hmm.
why would you not want that? That's
Yeah.
gross.
My daughter hates it.
Mm-hmm.
My son is the one that will FaceTime with me.
Yeah.
But like one of my best friends in South Carolina, I don't get a chance to talk to her a lot. Phone call. No. Phone call. No, no FaceTime. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to see you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases, people are just kind of, as time goes on, people are worried about what you think about them.
Yeah.
I know I have to lose weight and get back into my girlish figure, but that's because I wear a catsuit. No,
Like
it's
society tells people they have this expectation.
mhm,
Like for women, they expect you to wake up, have this perfect face on. They expect your hair to be done. They expect you to be fully decked out, like you looking like a supermodel as soon as you wake up. And they expect the same for men. Like
mhm,
they expect you to like be perfect right when you wake up. And I'm gonna
mhm.
tell you, I might look a little rough when I wake up. And I post selfies of myself looking rough to let
Mhm.
people know this is what you look like when you wake up. I got bedhead going on, okay?
I love telling guests sweatpants and hats are optional.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I said, I'm not putting this on video. I have the
Yeah.
video so I can see what you look like and talk to you
Right.
because it
Yeah.
makes for a better conversation. But I don't care if you haven't put on a stitch of makeup. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still going to think that you're the most awesome person in the world. And
Yeah.
yeah, I call that the Natalia Sedici rule. Can I wear sweats and a hat? Sure.
You wear
Why
whatever you
not?
like. Whatever
No,
you like.
you must appear in a latex catsuit and make me happy. Well, that would make me happy, but I've o- I I will sometimes be wearing like my purple casual catsuit, but I dressed up for you because first of all, we're on video. Second of all,
I love
I
it.
I I think it's fun because Amanda Wildfire, when I had them on the show, said, I want you in a collar and cuffs, and
Mhm.
I want you in your finest catsuit. And I went, yes, I will do that. But then they domed me through the interview. It was like, I'm going to be asking the questions now. So this is the question I want to know. I'm like, okay. So I will always offer, I said, you can wear your sweats and hats. If you have something you'd like me to see me in, I'm perfectly fine with that. But
Right?
it's just, to me, it's fun. And since we were going to be on video, the least I could do is dress up.
Well, I love it and I appreciate your efforts.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask you a couple more questions and then I'm going to let you go. I feel like I've been talking to you all night, but I feel like it's so easy for me to talk to you.
It has been a wonderful conversation. I feel like I'm visiting with a long lost friend. So carry on.
I'm glad. I'm glad. So I guess one of the aspiration kind of related questions I have is I know that you kind of got into the world early on, you kind of drew interest early. So how did that impact what you wanted to be? Like what kind of careers were you trying to look at because of the foundation you already had with your kink interests?
Yeah. Well, I knew what I wanted to do when I was 9 years old, and that was
Okay.
to be a sports broadcaster.
Okay.
And that's what I did for 35 years. From age 16, when I took an internship until COVID happened, I was a sports broadcaster and actually became much better behind the scenes. I worked in major university programs, helping them develop their visual brand.
Right.
When they came together, when kink and my work came together, actually happened when I worked with a gymnastics team.
Oh, okay.
And I had to, in my mind and in my heart, separate the two.
Right.
Because first of all, these were college athletes. I was a much older person.
Right.
And so even though I would see them in sparkly leotards, I was able to make the division there.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting because other people, because there was a famous picture of me, not famous, but well-known picture to me that had an entire university gymnastics team in their practice leotards, which looked like swimsuits, in the exact poses that they had had for their still pictures, which I based their graphics on. And me sitting on a computer in front of them, typing on a computer with them in back of me. I'm not even looking at them. And I posted it saying how a producer gets inspiration. And wouldn't you know, somebody within administration was saying, oh, you get your inspiration by women being skimpily clad. I said, the darn assistant coach took the picture because she thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And so I always knew that I had to separate that.
Right.
And I was able to do that. Funny story, though. I am in my first year or second year working with this gymnastics team. And I said to the coach, I love the fact that your Leos are extremely sparkly. Is there a way I could borrow one so I could take my camera and get the intricacy of all the sparkles? And I created a video backdrop that went about 30 seconds of me simply taking a extreme close-up of the Leo and just moving the camera along it and with a bright light and sparkle. So she said, sure, we can do that. Is it the same outfit that you have them for their headshots? And I went, yeah. And so she calls down, I think the guy's name was George, the equipment manager, says, hi, George, this is Coach. Jon would like the girls, that's her word. Jon would like the girls in their purple competition Leos. And by the way, do you have an extra leotard for Jon? Now, here I've done this wonderful job separating. So I end up being the host of the gymnastics banquet later that year, and I opened the show with that story. And do you have an extra leotard for Jon? The funny thing is, the one that they gave me barely fit over a coffee table book. That's how small.
Yeah.
But it might have been my appreciation for the shininess or whatever that allowed me to create this look, but that's as close as it was coming together.
Right.
So the other time, the one time my kink and my business did converge was I was a pro wrestling announcer. And there was a feud between Sam Houston, who was Jake the Snake Roberts' brother, and he was managed by Baby Doll, who was a very famous woman who managed Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard, and was going up against this woman, Samantha. And they set up a match where there is only one person that's neutral enough to keep these two people at bay. So the match happened where Sam Houston was going up against Bull Payne, and the stipulation was that Baby Doll and Samantha would be handcuffed to me.
Okay.
Now, here's the problem with that. That means that both my arms are handcuffed, and they took extreme advantage of this, ripping my tie off, ripping my clothes off,
Hmm.
messing up my hair, trying to fight, and having my arms going like, oh. And I said, that might be the one time where kink got onto television. Because, of course, Baby Doll was wearing a cat suit. So there you go. Good night, everybody. Thanks for playing. Here's some lovely parting gifts. So, but I knew I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So to get back to your question, and then when COVID happened, my business kind of blew up because there were no fans in the stands, and I was working
Yeah.
game presentation at the time. So when I left the television business, I wanted to stay creative.
Right.
And that's why I started the podcast. I wanted to keep interviewing people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take the talent that I had in television and move it onto a medium where I could shine a beautiful light on people that I greatly admired. And I originally thought I was just going to be interviewing my friends. And then when people like Midori and Sonny Megatron and Jean Bardot and Damazonia say that, yeah, we'll be on the podcast, that's when it just started going, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, she is literally the reason that I came for you. I was like, okay, I can definitely get behind whatever he's doing. So let's go check him out, see what he's got going on. And then I was like, it might be a good idea to pick his brain too.
And I'm glad you did.
So yeah, that was kind of why I'm here. So I guess we both kind of took something from the conversation today. And I feel like we both have so much more to talk about. It's like, even though we've been here for hours, I feel like there's just so many topics we haven't touched yet that we could still talk about. And I love whenever I get to talk to people like that, because it's like, I feel like I know you.
Well, that may end up having to be a crossover event, which we could have on my show coming up maybe sometime in April or May, where I will have you on my show. We will set it up just like we do here and have a crossover event where you can have the video portion on your show while I have the audio portion on my show. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I'll be on your show anytime.
Consider this your formal invitation. And as I said, it'll probably be in April or May.
Sounds
because
good.
I'm already booked out till then. Wait a minute. Wait, I have the new calendar here. Yes, I am booked out till May. Oh, it won't be in April because I'm booked out till May the 2nd.
Oh, you're a busy boy.
Yeah, I interviewed the founder of Skin 2 magazine today.
Nice.
Tim Woodward from London. I did a across the pond. We talked, and so that's coming up. I have a return of Vicky DeVica, who is a latex fetishist who is amazing and has had literally a life-changing thing happen to her. Mistress Marley, who is the queen, the chocolate dom and the queen of findom. And this week it's Vivian Darkbloom, who I just think the world of, out of Boston. And next week it's Lola, Jean, and Shayla from 7 Days of Domination.
Okay. See, I'm gonna have to go listen to all your episodes now because I want to know all these amazing things. I want to hear all this amazing conversation. Like, that is one reason I started the podcast. I literally wanted the education and awareness of our community and industry. Like, it is a good thing. I have had so many positive points of growth, just like I was telling you about whenever I originally got in. I had so much pent up resentment, and it helped me get rid of all of that. Like, the therapy that I have had, that I've experienced myself over time, has helped me in so many levels. Like, I love it. And I would say to anyone out there that is questioning whether they should kind of do research and become a part of it, I would suggest it. Like, find your own way in it. Obviously, don't do something just because somebody else is doing it, but find your own way, like your own flavor,
Absolutely. Be brave to be brave.
Yes. And that leads me to my last question for you.
Okay.
So my last question for you today is, do you have any regrets that are centered around the kink community?
One big one, that I wasted 27 years of my life by not being in it.
Completely understandable.
I wish I had explored more. And it's very much the relationship I had with performing on stage. I started doing improvisational theater when I was 40 years old. And I looked back and said, why didn't I start this in high school?
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like I'm trying to make up for lost time, but I'm trying to experience as much as I can while I can still enjoy it.
Right.
Because we're not guaranteed a tomorrow. I don't care how old you are.
Yes.
And so you have to enjoy it today. And that's what I'm going to do my best to do.
Yes, as you should. And you do it beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Forbidden Depths. Again, make sure you go follow Jon over on Twitter. It's at What Women Want P1. Perfect, isn't it?
Instagram is pretty easy. It's What Women Want Podcast.
Yeah.
And
also, there's links over there too.
Yeah. So our link tree is linktr.ee/What Women Want Podcast. And you can get anything you want to about the podcast there. I have to add some links of podcasts I've been on recently, actually.
Yes. We need all the growth. Go on over there, show some support, follow him. And if you have any suggestions for anyone to be on his podcast, make sure you let him know.
Please do.
Thank you so much.
It has been an honor and a pleasure. And thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, it's great to be able to have a wonderful conversation of somebody who understands it as well as you do. And I do appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. I look forward to speaking with you again. You guys have an amazing night.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Queen Frostbitten again, your host. I just want to remind you that you can follow us on YouTube at Forbidden Depths. That's FORBIDDENDEPTHS. Or over on Twitter at the number 4 BIDDENDPODCAST. Remember to always stay educated, consensual, and safe. We'll see you on the next show.